Greetings, fellow film fans. Thanks for tuning in. My name is Mercy, and this is the Funny Pajamas YouTube channel. So, for this video, I thought I'd do a ranking of the 13 Fox X-Men movies, starting from worst to best. Before we get down to it, why don't you smash that like and subscribe button? Become a subscriber to my channel if you haven't done so already. And don't forget to hit the bell icon so that you're notified every time I post something new. With that down and out of the way, let's get down to it. Right at the bottom of the barrel, at number 13, we have X-Men Origins Wolverine. Now this was supposed to be, they were going to do a whole series of origin films following each of the characters. But after the horrible reception that X-Men Origins Wolverine received, that plan was totally scrapped. This movie is a total hot mess of a movie. There are so many plot lines and it's just not executed well. On paper, I can see how this might seem to be a good idea, but unfortunately, the execution was very bad. The effects also are pretty bad. Particularly, there's that one scene with Wolverine and his claws and all. The CGI is pretty bad. Very cheesy lines, and as such, they crammed in so many plot points that it totally brought down this movie, weighed it down and made it fall flat. The only redemptive part, the only one good thing about this movie was probably Liev Schreiber and Hugh Jackman's performance as Sabretooth and Wolverine. But on the whole, there's nothing much to recommend this movie besides rewatchability is also pretty bad. Moving on, in 12th place, we have X-Men The Last Stand. Now this was a totally disappointing end to the trilogy of X-Men movies, and there seems to be a recurring theme in most of the Fox X-Men movies that they seem to try to cram in a whole lot of plot points and then eventually end up not dedicating enough time to each plot point to flesh it out. As such, the movies suffer. This movie was pretty bad. They tried to squeeze in the mutant cure and Magneto's mutant brotherhood, and also the Phoenix Saga. They try to put in all this and the movie suffers. Also, the death of Cyclops and Professor Xavier were extremely underwhelming. On the whole, an extremely disappointing film, seeing as how X-Men and X2 X-Men United, how they went ahead. This was definitely a pretty bad installment in the franchise, and like I said, due to the fact of being lots of there being a lot of plot points, it was seeming extremely rushed. None of the characters were done justice. On the whole, a very, very disappointing film. Coming in at number 11 is X-Men Apocalypse. Now this movie, the source material is very rich. It adapts one of the most iconic storylines of the X-Men franchise, that is the Age of Apocalypse. But unfortunately, the execution of this is pretty bad. It's done very badly. The characters are written very poorly. My major problem is with the Storm character and also the villain, that was Apocalypse. They got an amazing actor in Oscar Isaacs to play the role, but the villain was so generic, so flat, so lifeless. There was absolutely nothing, not to say anything bad about Oscar Isaac's performance, but it's just that he was given so little to work with that it just did not come out well. The source material, what's so saddening about this movie is that the source material is so rich, so nice, but they just did not do it justice. Particularly with one particular thing in the Fox X-Men franchise, it's a lot of the continuity doesn't add up, and I felt they did a big disservice to all the characters in this. Michael Fassbender's arc, I will say, the part about his family, that as its own self-contained story was pretty good, and that unfortunately wasn't enough to hold up the movie. We begin with this strong story arc where he's like lost his family and stuff, and then we end up where he's like very generic. The whole thing fell flat for me, and it was just poorly written would be the main problem with this, and that's what made it so extremely disappointing. That's why Age of Apocalypse is so low down in the list for me. Up next on my list, in 10th place, is Dark Phoenix. Now, this is the second attempt at adapting the Phoenix saga as such. It's being an iconic story arc in the comics. I do believe they did a better job in this than they did in The Last Stand. And surprisingly, compared, I didn't think it was as big a dumpster fire as most people thought it was. I thought it did have its redeeming points, the one of which being the strong performance in the cast. But I do believe that the how they had written the Charles Xavier character was didn't seem to be in line with what they portrayed him so far throughout all the movies, even in First Class and Days of Future Past. He seemed to be totally out of character, behaving absolutely unlike anything they have so far showed him to behave. As such, the villains were very flat, absolutely no characteristics in them. I will say the train sequence was pretty good, but that was done during the massive reshoots that they underwent. The train sequence, the action sequence was very well done. And considering that it was a reshoot, that's got a lot to say about the movie. And maybe this could be a fault of Simon Kinberg because it was his first time directing a film. And my thoughts about having a first time director for such a large tentpole movie is not the wisest of things. Another critique I had of the current Mortal Kombat movie which recently came out. Generally with directors, if it's their first time, you give them something small to, sort of cut their teeth with. So, so something small to cut their teeth with, a little low budget, not a big tentpole film. And I did believe that this movie suffered because of that. You can see that they tried to edit it and work it around, but it just did not work. I do not believe it was as bad as some people make it out to be. I did believe it had its redeeming points. I believe at some points, don't quote me on this, but I believe at one point they planned to have shape-shifting Skrulls as such, but the MCU moved in on that, so they weren't able to include this. Also, you can see that Jennifer Lawrence just does not give a damn about her character in this movie. She doesn't seem to be putting in the effort. That I did feel that the Xavier character was portrayed totally out of character. On the whole, not as bad as it could have turned out as I had heard it had been, but definitely down among the bottom few. Okay, now further on from this point, most of the films I consider them to be pretty good. The ones below this point I did consider more negatives than they had positives. The further ones have negatives, but the positives are there, and I do believe on the whole, overall, they make pretty decent watches. In 9th place, I have The Wolverine. Now, this is James Mangold's first foray into the X-Men franchise before he did Logan, which will come further down. Now, The Wolverine, what do I say about it? Not the most rewatchable film, but I did believe that it had some very good points. I believe the first two and a half acts was really good, but it's in the third act where everything goes absolutely downhill. I thought Jackman's portrayal of Wolverine was pretty good. The first two acts were grounded, though it had some, like the X-Men fantastical elements. But in the third act, when they brought in the large silver samurai to fight Wolverine, it just hit the fans right there. So I do believe it started off strong, and I like the Western feel at the same Japanese elements, and that I thought that was pretty unique about it. And on the whole, I do believe it is a solid, good movie, and I do believe that Mangold takes the good points in this movie further and uses it in Logan. Okay, in 8th place, I have The New Mutants. This is the latest and the last in the Fox franchise of Fox X-Men movies, and I heard a lot of things. The drama that followed behind it, particularly this movie was supposed to come out in April of 2018, I believe, but then it had to undergo massive reshoots and scheduling conflicts with the actors, and then Disney, Fox, and then 2020 happened, and finally it was released in theaters. Disney decided to drop it in theaters around about the end of. So I do believe this movie is not bad. It has its redeeming points. It totally falls flat in the finale. What they built it up to, I felt it totally fell flat. Now, I thought the premise was good. The idea of having the X-Men film in the horror genre, I thought that was a unique idea, and I was interested in seeing how it was. You know my aversion to horror, but on the whole, I thought this movie wasn't really as horror centric as I thought it would be. I thought the cast held it up well. Their dynamic was pretty good. I thought they played off each other well. The humor landed. In most parts it landed, and I thought their character interactions were good. Only let down by the finale, which was pretty bad. On the whole, I thought it was a solid film, and not a bad conclusion. Not as bad as I thought it would be. And now in seventh place, I firmly have the first X-Men movie. Now this X-Men movie practically laid the groundwork for most modern superhero films. It still holds up today, has amazing rewatchability. It introduced us to Jackman, Stewart, McKellen as the iconic characters of Wolverine, Professor Xavier, and I'm sorry, Magneto. Yes, right. Okay. It introduced us to these characters, set the groundwork, did an amazing job of introducing us to their world, their universe, the prejudices there, the politics of that world. Did a great job in setting the groundwork for the future films, and it does hold on to even today. Now, as if I'm not mistaken, I believe Hugh Jackman was like a last minute casting. It was originally to be given to some other actor. Forgive me, but I do not know his name. But it introduced us to Hugh Jackman and made him an iconic star, a mega movie star, all thanks to this role. On the whole, it is a solid first movie, a very good movie, one of the first superhero movies that I saw as a kid, and as such holds a very near and dear place to my heart. A definitely a good movie, solid. I thought it was simple plot point, and it brought the story up well. Not much action right straight off the bat. It does build up in the final sequence, the action sequence on Liberty Isle. I liked how we learned more about the world, about how we were introduced to the X-Men through Rogue and Wolverine, and how we discover with them and learn with them what the X-Men are and what they do. And as such, I thought it was definitely a solid, nice film. Okay, in sixth place, I have X2, X-Men United. Now, this is one of the rare, incidences where the sequel is better than the original. I thought they took all that worked in the first X-Men movie and built on it and, improved it to give us a better, well-rounded movie. Now, I know for a lot of people, this movie is much higher up in the rankings. Unfortunately for me, this is here. There's not much difference. I found it really hard ranking the movies past this point. As such, I have this in my sixth place. I thought it did really well. It built on the foundation that the first movie gave us really well. And as such, I thought it was stronger for that. I love the first starting sequence where it begins with, this cool action sequence, one of the best introduction sequences to a superhero movie, with Nightcrawler in the White House. And I liked how they built up the stakes, how they built the story, the characters, and it ended with the sacrifice that Jean Grey made. And I thought that really punched home, particularly the way they built it up. On the whole, a solid movie and a really good superhero movie, one of the best X-Men movies. Next, in fifth place, I have Deadpool 2. Now, Deadpool 2, now I will admit I was late to the Deadpool party. I watched Deadpool 1, the original Deadpool, much after it was released in theaters. Coming to Deadpool 2. Now, Deadpool 2 released 2 years after Deadpool 1, and maybe that could have been why they did seem to be undecided on the script, mainly because they seem to have included everything they could have thought of into the movie. Maybe if they had spent a little more time, they could have polished it up and given it out better. On the whole, it is an extremely entertaining film. Did not see what was going to what was coming for X-Force. I certainly did not see that coming. I did think that the Russell character, the Russell character was yeah, it was pretty annoying to me, to be honest. I did love the freshness, the comedic talent of Ryan Reynolds is spot on. I love the interaction between Cable and Deadpool, and my favorite interaction was the interactions between Deadpool and Colossus. I thought that duo was amazing, and on the whole, I loved it. Like I said, these past few, the next few movie, the previous one and the next few ones are a little difficult for me to rank. They're all so close, but I did enjoy this film. As such, I have it firmly in my number 5 spot. Okay, in fourth place, I have X-Men First Class. Now, I wasn't really sure how to accept, going into this movie, I had my doubts. But I thought the leads, Michael Fassbender as Magneto, James McAvoy as Professor Xavier, and Jennifer Lawrence, surprisingly, did a good job in this movie. Actually, this is the first one of, I mean, maybe probably the only movie in which Jennifer Lawrence seems to actually care about her role as, as Mystique and or Raven. I was pleasantly surprised with this film. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the heck out of it. I liked what McAvoy and Fassbender gave us. Their dynamic was really good. They were the strong ones in this. I thought Kevin Bacon as the villain was really good. I thought he's a much slept on villain, but I thought he was really good. Not so much on the January Jones character, but I thought they did a good job in introducing us to this new set, the new cast as such. And I thought, like the way they set it, the time period they set it in, I love the part where Magneto gets his revenge and stuff. The only probable thing I have against this is probably because that maybe it helped it out better, but I don't know, they focus so much on the top 3 characters that the actual First Class was not really fleshed out and worked upon. They didn't really get much to do. That was my only critique about this, but on the whole, a really fun movie. I did not expect it to be as good as it was, and as such, it is firmly in 4th place for me. Okay, now we are coming up to the top 3. Now, in 3rd place, I have the first Deadpool movie. This movie, like I said, I kind of slept on it. I didn't really go out to the theater to catch this movie, but when I did see it, I'm glad I did. It's amazingly fresh, amazingly fun. Loved the fourth wall breaking jokes, and this introduced us to Ryan Reynolds as Deadpool. This is the Deadpool that we should have gotten straight off the bat, not the silent Deadpool that we got in X-Men Origins Wolverine. I loved it. Ryan Reynolds was made for this role, and from what I gather, this was a passion project of Ryan Reynolds and the writers, and they were really pushing for it to be made, and thank God they did it. As the casting of Ryan, like again, I can't sing his praises in this enough. The casting of Ryan Reynolds as Deadpool is spot on. He's amazing, from the humor to the action to the pure physical. Good. You can see that he loves playing this role, and the writers seem to have had a blast writing this, and it can be seen in every frame of this movie. On the whole, an amazingly fresh and very different movie. It's story-wise got nothing great. The writing, the jokes are really good. The story-wise, it's an example of how you take a very formulaic story, add freshness, add entertainment, add everything, passion, and bring it out, and you get this beautiful concoction that you can only give a chef's kiss to. As such, I firmly place Deadpool in 3rd place. Now in 2nd place, I have X-Men Days of Future Past. Now, coming straight off First Class, I had high expectations for X-Men Days of Future Past, and I was not let down. I enjoyed this movie. As always, McAvoy and Fassbender hold up this movie really well. I liked seeing the different characters in different stages, in different phases of their lives, particularly Xavier as this depressed, disillusioned sort of person, and how he picks himself up. Loved the Quicksilver scenes. I thought they were amazing. They were point on, funny, entertaining, really done, and I enjoyed it. I like that the time period they set it in, very different from the Days of Future storyline in the comics, if I'm not mistaken, but I enjoyed it. I thought the casting was really good, and it's a beautiful transition from Stewart and McKellen's Magneto and Xavier to McAvoy and Fassbender's versions, and I thought they did it very well. And what I liked about McAvoy and Fassbender was they don't try to mimic or imitate Stewart and McKellen. Instead, they bring out their own versions, how the characters would have been, and I liked that. I liked that they didn't straight off just mimic their predecessors. So as a whole, I really enjoyed this film. It's one of my favorite comic book movies till date, and I love just rewatching it again and again. Amazing rewatchability. So that's why I have this movie in second place. So it's no surprise, coming in first place is Logan. What can I say about Logan? Logan is a masterpiece of the genre. James Mangold took all the positives and the negatives he learned. All the positives he took, polished it up, brought it out better, and really put it all into Logan. Now, Logan's got a whole Western feel to it. It's dark, it's gritty. It's the darkest of all the X-Men movies, probably of all the comic book movies also. I'm not sure, but it is the darkest among all the X-Men movies. But above all, it's a study of mainly Logan and Professor X, where they are in their life, and I felt it was a fitting swan song to both Sir Patrick Stewart's character Charles Xavier and Hugh Jackman's character Wolverine. This how to say this, but this movie is a perfect character study. It's these characters that bring and hold up this movie, their dynamics, their growth, where they reach. And I thought it was a fitting farewell to these iconic characters that we know. I also thought the casting of Daphne Keane was really good. I thought she did very well for the role she was given. I did see her in His Dark Material. Season 1 was pretty good. Season 2, for some reason, I just dropped off. But I thought Daphne Keane in her role was pretty good. The story is very simplistic, very simple. But the characters hold it up. The way it's written, the way they perform, they put their heart and soul into it. That's what brings out this movie. That's what makes it stand above James Mangold's direction. Very dark, gritty. On the whole, I love this movie. It's an amazing movie. I had fun with it. And I think it was nominated in the Oscars, the first comic book movie to ever make it into the Oscars. And I'm glad. Stewart and Hugh Jackman give an amazing performance, and I do believe they should have got a nomination, particularly Sir Patrick Stewart. But whatever it is, it worked out as it was. If you have not seen Logan yet, do yourself a favor, go check it out. It is fun. Definitely very violent, very dark, gritty, not for the faint of heart. But it is an amazing movie, a lovely story where we travel and learn and grow and see these two characters reach their final destination, and it's a beautiful conclusion to their story arc. So that's all I have for you right now. That's my top ranking of the 13 Fox X-Men movies. Now we move into the Disney era. I'm waiting to see how they bring them into the MCU. I'm dying to find out. But I trust Kevin Feige. He's going to do it well. I do want to see where they go. I hope that now the Fox X-Men have had a pretty up and down. They go from rising crest down, and then it's like a low point with X-Men Origin Wolverines, and then they come right back up with First Class and Days of Future Past, and then it goes. So it's been kind of like a pretty bumpy ride for us. But we did get some really good movies, some fun movies, some amazing films, masterpieces of the genre, and for that I am all the more happy. Why don't you let me know down in the comment section below where you rank these movies. Now this is my personal ranking, so please keep that in mind. It varies for everyone. Film is subjective, so you may see it differently. I'd like to hear what are your top 3, what are your worst 3. I'd love to hear from you, so hit me down in the comment section down below. You can always contact me on Twitter simply at mercy_d. Don't forget Instagram at mercy_sd, and don't forget the Funny Pajamas Facebook page simply at Funny Pajamas. It's up on the screen. And you can always contact me on email simply on mercy@funny-pajamas.com. Pajamas with a Y. Don't forget to check out the website www.funny-pajamas.com. I put up a whole lot of stuff there, so do go check it out. Waiting to hear from you. That's all I have for you right now. So I'm going to sign off right now. Hope to see you again next week. See you later, film fans. And for all my friends out there, particularly in India where we're having a tough time in the current situation, hope you're doing well. Stay safe, stay secure. This is Mercy signing out. Bye. Have a good one, everyone.